The tragic and terrible story of Auschwitz-Birkenau, retold with a little bit of help from Steven Spielberg, narrated by Meryl Streep. A very disturbing story indeed. Before that, we heard testimony, very moving testimony, from 3 of the survivors who are here today. The next item, some words from Ronald Lauder from the World Jewish Congress. He's going to be talking about the Pillars of Remembrance organization. There is the director of the movie, or at least the man behind the movie, Steven Spielberg, so familiar to all of us. Applause from the Polish president there.
Szanowni Państwo, o zabranie głosu proszę przedstawiciela filarów pamięci, największych prywatnych darczyńców Funduszu na rzecz zachowania autentyzmu Auschwitz-Birkenau, pana Ronalda Laudera.
This is Ronald Lauder, who has invested so much in trying to preserve the Auschwitz-Birkenau concentration camp, the death camp, for future generations, and I'm sure that's what he's going to be talking about now.
Your Excellencies, honored guests, I am not a survivor, although I am grateful for the survivors who are here today. I am not a liberator, although I salute the courage of the veterans who are among us today. I am here simply as a Jew, and like Jews everywhere, this place, this terrible place called Auschwitz, touches our souls. I've always wondered if I had been born in Hungary, where my grandparents were from, instead of in New York in February 1944, would I have lived? The answer is no. I would have been one of the 438,000 Hungarian Jews gassed by the Nazis in 1944, right here in Auschwitz. What was the reason that over 1 million Jews were murdered right here? The reason was they were Jewish. Nazi Germany believed Jews had no right to live. Yes, the Holocaust was designed by the Nazis, but there was complicity from almost every country in Europe. For 70 years, philosophers, theologians, and historians have tried to explain Auschwitz. And for 70 years, no one has come up with an adequate answer. So Auschwitz never goes away. This awful place stands as a reminder that propaganda leads to anti-Semitism. It's a reminder that anti-Semitism will grow if nobody speaks out. And it's a reminder that when whole countries are filled with hate, anti-Semitism leads to places like Auschwitz. I was going to make a very different speech here today, but after the recent events in Paris and throughout Europe and around the world, I cannot ignore what is happening today. Jews are targeted in Europe once again because they're Jews. Synagogues and Jewish businesses are attacked. There are mass demonstrations with thousands of people shouting death threats to the state of Israel and to Jews. Shortly after the end of World War II, after we saw the reality of Auschwitz and other death camps, no normal person wanted to be associated with the anti-Semitism of the Nazis. And for a time, we thought that the hatred of Jews had finally been eradicated. But slowly, the demonization of Jews started to come back, first in articles and on the internet, and in some religious schools, and even in universities. And from these, it made its way into mainstream society. And it all seemed so unimportant that few people paid any attention. Until now, when Europe suddenly awoke to find itself surrounded by anti-Semitism once again. And it looks more like 1933 than 2015. Once again, young Jewish boys are afraid to wear yarmulkes on the streets of Paris and Budapest, London, and even Berlin. Once again, Jewish businesses are targeted. And once again, Jewish families are starting to flee Europe. This past summer, Anna Sjogren, a mother of four, was walking down the street in Uppsala, Sweden, when she was suddenly viciously beaten by a mob. What did she do to deserve this? She was wearing a Star of David around her neck. How did this happen again? Why? After 7 decades and 3 generations, is this new storm of anti-Semitism sweeping through Europe and targeting Jews once again? For decades, the world has been fed lies about Israel. That Israel is the curse of everyone's problems. That Israelis are villains of the 21st century. And that Israel has no right to exist. We all learned that when you tell a lie 3 times and there is no response, that lie becomes the truth. This vilification of Israel, the only Jewish state on earth, quickly became an opportunity to attack Jews, much as this came from the Middle East, but it found fertile ground throughout the world. And the targets of this hate are not just Jews, but Christians who are being slaughtered in Africa and the Middle East. Women and girls are killed in Afghanistan